Just want to start this by saying a quick thank you to all members of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. If you want to become a member and support the work that I do, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. Thank you again to all members, but let's get on with the video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Kinetic Rugby League channel. On screen is a recap of last round's predictions, and what you will notice is that there's a lack of 6 out of 6. Again, just keeps happening, doesn't it? But as always, let me know your predictions in the comment section down below. They're definitely going to be better than mine. Let's get on with the first game of this week. Kicking things off this week, we have the Huddersfield Giants taking on the Leeds Rhinos. Starting with form, Huddersfield have won 3 in their last 5 Super League games. Leeds have won 4 in their last 5 Super League games. That includes 4 wins in a row for the Rhinos. In terms of point of entry, because that's something I've been talking about over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of games that have felt quite one-sided, so I've at least wanted to talk about a point of entry for the underdog in a game. Huddersfield will be the underdog, so their point of entry for me is their ability to start fast. Hasn't been too consistent as of late, but we do know that Huddersfield can start games quite quickly. Whereas we look at Leeds at the weekend against Hull FC, the first quarter of the game wasn't quite as strong or as quick as they were in the final hour, but that could be the case again this week. Maybe Leeds have a fairly slow start, Huddersfield start out well, get a try or two like they did against Wigan a few weeks back was a prime example, but maybe just lose the game later on. So point of entry is a fast start for Huddersfield. That's going to be huge for them. Huddersfield Giants forwards are big as well, though. That does help. They've got some big guys up front. The problem is I don't think they're going to be able to compete this week. There's a couple guys in there that get through a lot of work, putting some good carries sometimes, but there are some for the size of them that they just don't cut it. They're big bodies, but they don't get anywhere. There's one, I'm not going to call him out, but there's one in particular that kind of just is a big guy, but just doesn't get anywhere. Whereas Leeds, their forwards, they just keep making progress. Whether it be any of the 3 main areas to talk about, whether it be offloads, quick play the balls, or post-contact meters. The offloads especially have been huge. That entire Leeds line has been great with offloads. But I think there's a good chance that the Giants this week, they lose the battle through the middle, they get pushed back a lot, and then they get pinned back a lot. The backs are going to have to do a lot of work with the returns. The forwards are going to have to keep turning around to get back because they need the biggest guys possible to at least try and work the ball out their own end. I think by the end of the game, they will be knackered. So they could have that good start with good energy, but it starts to creep away from them as time gets further and further on in the game, and further towards the back end, the second half, I think is where Leeds could really push on from there. I can see a lot of offloads for Leeds this week again. They do like to chuck the ball around. I think this could be another field day for Millie. He had 205 metres at the weekend. He could have even more this week, honestly. Connor as well keeps breaking lines. Croft has been huge. I think he's actually gone under the radar a little bit, and at this point now he's been back in the lineup a good few months. He was out for a little while, but he's been there for a good few months, and they're now settled in the spine. O'Connor is doing well through the middle as well, making some good meters from time to time. And then you got Sharks in there. He's finally had some minutes for Leeds, and he'll feel more and more comfortable in the lineup. Whether he plays at 13 or at 9 or Akers comes back into the starting lineup, we'll see what they do. But they've got some options there, which is good. Now, defensively, Leeds probably won't have too much to worry about. There's a few guys that could unlock Leeds potentially. You're looking at guys like Flanagan. You'd think that Gagai can, make some players miss here and there. Lollahea would be huge. But that's it. There's 3 guys that you can look at in that whole squad for Huddersfield that I think they could find some extra meters. They could find some line breaks. But that's it. And it's probably not going to be enough because defensively, I've been talking about it a fair few times recently. The defensive line speed for Leeds is just getting up and shutting things down. Finally, you got players like Castleford for Leeds. He continues to impress. And we could see a lot of breaks through the middle as well. I think the kind of carries that we'll see from the forwards, they'll push the Giants players back, quick play the balls for O'Connor, and Sharks if he comes on as the 9 off the bench, or whether it's Akers. Whoever's at 9, I think they'll have plenty of success and plenty of room to run through the middle. And then those moments where they get offloads to Miller, to Connor, to Croft, they'll eat up the meters and they'll find a lot of breaks through the middle, I think. And this could be a fairly high-scoring game. I think it could be a lot higher than even what I'm predicting here. But I'm going to go with Leeds Rhinos 40, Huddersfield Giants 6. Next up, we have the Salford Red Devils taking on the Catalans Dragons. Starting with form, both have won just 1 in their last 5 Super League games. Now, the advantage that Catalans will have over what Warrington had against Salford is they'll have a much bigger pack. Salford did a great job of slowing down Warrington's metres through the middle. They slowed down the ruck and were able to get set defensively. Even though Catalans, they haven't really been dominating that much through the middle, they do have bigger blokes up front, and I think they're more likely to be able to get quicker play the balls, more offloads as well, make players miss tackles, and push the way up the field. That's going to be a huge advantage for Catalans, I think, this week. Now, to go into some of the positives for Salford, first of all, if that backline continues to be settled, so 2 weeks running they've had, I think it's Connell, Gorman, Derbyshire, Chimambe. That's been their back four. Against Warrington, they didn't look startled. When that first try went in, it looked quite easy, but after that, they looked pretty settled. You get Milnes in there for another week in the back line, as well as Mellor as the three in defenders. So they're starting to get a little bit more of a regular back line, and they're like the most inexperienced part of the side with those four players that are named initially. But they looked really solid against Warrington. And now you add in another week of training in there and more reps on the actual pitch to build communication, build chemistry, build trust, work on those defensive structures, and be able to put plays together. That's going to be huge for them this week. They get Jack Walker with another week in there to keep building in the spine and be able to pop up more. He had at least two major line breaks from what I recall. Could have had another one as well. I'm not too sure, but two major line breaks. So he's going to get more time in there. Milnes, also, if he's actually going to be there another week, who actually knows, because he just gets chucked around by teams all the time. Even though he's a fairly reliable option at 7, he's been stable in the halves. So at the time of recording, he's still at Salford, as far as I'm aware. Him with Mellor will keep things stable, and his kicking game has been huge. Made Hodgson drop the ball a couple times last week. I don't know if Warrington actually dropped the ball from a Milnes kick at the weekend, but there were certainly a lot of tough ones for Dufty to take. So he could be a real issue for Catalans' back three with his kicking. The way I'm kind of thinking about this game, though, is it's kind of the same way I thought about the game last week, which I was wrong about. You know, I made this point, and I was wrong about it. But I still think the same idea applies in that just the individuals for Catalans, I think, might just be too much. The main part of that being the forward pack again, that they are bigger up front, and I think will have more success than Warrington did. And I think that's going to be easier to unlock the backs. That's going to get Kiri on the front foot more. It's going to get Farge on the front foot more. Whatever combination they go with in the spine, it's going to get them on the front foot a lot more. And Da Costa, who's not really been able to do much. He can, run from the ruck, but he's not been able to really show that much this year. But I think it's a case of individuals for Catalans will be too much over 80 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if Salford, if they've got the same lineup again, or very close to the same one, can keep building those reps in training and just add a little bit more to their toolkit. Like, we saw a great bit of movement, I think it was in the first half actually, down the short side left, ball went out the back to Mellor. It was Duffy, the young lad for Warrington on debut, kind of stepped out the line. Mellor stepped past him. I think he then kicked the ball through. It's either a kick or a pass off to Derbyshire, and he goes in. A nice little play, nice bit of shape down the short side. And it's things like that with more time, that back line, and with those halves, they can produce more moments like that. And I think we might see a couple from Salford, and if they get the upset again, I wouldn't be surprised because of that energy from the home crowd as well. But again, I think it's the Catalans forwards. It's just going to be too much this week and just can push and dominate and just pin Salford back a little bit too much. I was wrong about it last week, but it's the size difference this week I think is going to be just enough. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with Salford Red Devils 16, Catalans Dragons 24. Next up, we have what could be the game of the round in St Helens versus Wigan Warriors. Starting with form, both have won 4 in their last 5 Super League games. Now, Saints' defence has been great for months at this point, whereas Wigan, they're just starting to find their way. They conceded 10 against Hull KR. Yes, they lost in that one, but it's only 10 against Hull Kingston Rovers, which is great. It was 4 against... Well, sorry, I think it was 2 against Wakefield and then 4 against Catalans. So their defence looks fantastic right now, but they're just starting to get onto that kind of level. Wigan with Bevan French back in there might have their attack sorted. So there's a few different things to break down with the battle through the middle and both sides' attack. So I'll try and keep it as concise and hopefully connect the dots properly. So bear with me on this one. I think both sides are likely to keep going through the middle. Like with Saints versus Hull Kingston Rovers, they'll want to keep, butting heads up front. They'll want to establish some kind of foothold or some kind of dominance if possible. It'll be very difficult for one team to dominate over the other in this one because they're both great up front. So, Wigan have been typically this season more likely to spread the ball inside the midfield. That was a point I made in their favour against the Robins. St Helens, they've been more likely to spread the ball in the midfield because their attack has improved. There's more confidence, there's more trust in shifting the ball out wide. However, with Saints doing that, they've had more lows in terms of completion rate, which could be an issue. So I think in terms of the forward battle, up front, it's about even. I think if both teams are clean, I actually lean towards Saints. But if both teams are trying to move the ball around, I have more trust in Wigan being able to put something together. Saints, they look more likely to have mistakes off the back of their attacking shifts inside the midfield. So I think if they both just focus on completion, it's actually going to suit Saints a lot more. If Saints complete high, there's more trust for me in St Helens to win this one. Kicking, defence, and carries from both will be about the same. I think Smith down that left edge will focus purely down that left edge on the kicking, whereas in By, I think, whether it be Lomax as well, whether it be Whitby, whoever they've got in the halves, I think they are all kicking fairly well into the corners. But it's Wigan are going to focus just down that left-hand side. If they can put Smith under pressure, they take away his kicking. French isn't really the type to do that. Maybe in the short-range kicking, just kind of chipping it towards that back corner. Long-range kicking, you put Smith under pressure, you kind of take him out of the game. Defence will be another one, as I mentioned, close for both, and carries will be great through the middle. The only thing that I feel confident about the most in terms of leaning towards one over the other is completion. I just think there's been a few too many games recently where Saints' completion has not looked great, but they've not been punished. And I think with French back in there, if you gift him easy territory inside your own half and even inside the red zone, at that point it's a numbers game, not if, but when he will do something with it. And I think that's it. It's a difference of one try for me that might just be through between the sticks, basically, or in front of the sticks, because of the amount of pressure that Saints will have to deal with, because I think their completion might be a bit of an issue. The errors need to be cleaned up this week. If they can be clean, I think they win the battle up front and potentially get the win. But I'm just not sure about their completion in this one. And I think when they try and shift the ball out wide, they will come up with more mistakes against a defence like this. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with St Helens 12, Wigan Warriors 18. Next up, we have Castleford Tigers taking on Wakefield Trinity. Starting with form, Castleford have won 0 in their last 5 games. Wakefield have won 3 in their last 5 games. That's actually games played. So you take out the Salford free win and you go back to the game before that. In their actual last 5 games that they've played, they have won 3 in their last 5. Now, I'm not really sure what Castleford's point of entry is in this one. They are the clear underdogs to me. I think there's 2, but they're maybes. They're 2 maybes for points of entry for Castleford. But getting into it, I expect Wakey to look comfortable in terms of field position. With the size, the power, the players they've got in rotation, and the mobility up front, I think there could be a lot of quick play the balls and a lot of offloads for Wakey, just constantly marching up the field. And that's going to suit the guys in the backs that like to play off the cuff, guys like Jowett, or whether it be Scott, whether it be Pratt. Mate, I don't even know what lineup they're going to have. It feels like it changes every week, but we will see what Wakey end up with. But they've got plenty of guys off the cuff. Rourke as well, if he ends up playing. Honestly, I don't even want to predict what lineup Wakefield's going to have, because there's just no point. But whoever they've got guys that can play off the cuff, and then the guys through the middle with their mobility will be huge for offloads and quick play the balls for the hookers. I think Castleford will be quite easy to pin back. The backs are going to have to do a lot of work. They'll need to get their forwards turning back, being stuck inside their own 10, 20. I think they'll be doing a lot of kicking from behind their own 30 a lot of the time. Assey sometimes has a decent kicking game. Same with Atkin. Sometimes. But even on a shorter pitch, it doesn't feel like it's really changing much because Wakefield just returned back up towards the 40 or the halfway line. So I think in terms of field position, it's going to look very comfortable for Wakefield. I expect Wakefield to move the ball around a lot and find plenty of line breaks. Those line breaks could result in a lot of points for them as well. At the very worst, just good territory. The defence for Castleford has been shocking. Over the last few months at this point, it's been shocking. It was already pretty bad. It's looking a lot worse now. Not good for them at all. So I think Wakefield could put up a lot of points. They'll get a lot of territory, whether it's through the middle or out wide. The only ways that I see Castleford getting the win in this one, the points of entry, first is if Wakefield, as I think they'll be shifting the ball around a lot, they make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of wayward passes. They drop the ball a bit. If Castleford's defensive line is quick enough to disrupt what Wakefield try and do, they could force some errors, and therefore they get field position inside the midfield or inside Wakefield's half. So low completion. That's one point of entry. And I think given that Wakefield's style is to shift the ball around a lot, it's not a wild take that Wakefield could make some mistakes and turn the ball over. It is possible. I think they'll complete well enough and find breaks, but it's not impossible that they turn the ball over. The second is having a shorter pitch as well. Now, obviously, Wakefield will be playing on the shorter pitch too, but Cass are more comfortable with it being their home field. They're familiar with the dimensions. Maybe there are some 40-20s in there. The kicking game could be a little bit easier. They understand, how to manipulate the short field, possibly. 40-20s would be huge in changing momentum. But the problem is they've had plenty of home games this year. The kicking hasn't really done much difference. But again, it's just a maybe. It's just a potential point of entry. The final thing is, I just think that Wakey's pack dominates here. I think the hookers will enjoy getting easy meters through the middle. I think there'll be an insane number of play the balls inside the red zone. I think it would be very possible that when we look at the stats after the game, Wakefield have at least triple the number of play the balls inside the 20. Possibly even more than triple. I think it'll just be a lot of pressure. And Castleford, inside the red zone, they can sometimes scramble well, but Wakefield will find their way in. They will get into that in-goal area, and they will find plenty of points. So for prediction in this one, I'm going to go with Castleford Tigers 6, Wakefield Trinity 34. Next up, we have Warrington Wolves taking on Leigh Leopards. Starting with form, Warrington have won just 1 in their last 5 games. Leigh have won 3 in their last 5 games, and one of those includes a win over Warrington as well, where Warrington were seen as the better team for most of the game, but they threw it away, and Leigh still got the win in the end. Now, this is another game where Warrington's middles are basically too small. Offloads are going to be huge in this one. I do think since Matteson has come in, he's had to play in the front row a couple of times. He was at loose forward last week because Ben Curry's now injured as well. But Matteson does look like a player that is constantly looking for offloads and that can get offloads as well. So that's going to be, for me, the only way that Warrington really compete through the middle. Unless, defensively, Matteson, Yates, Philbin, whoever's going to be in the front row, maybe Wood gets more time, maybe McKinney gets more time this week. Could maybe just have a solid defensive display through the middle, but I think based on size, Leigh might honestly be okay with this one. So, yeah, that's going to be a rough start to begin with. There's probably a chance that Warrington have a little bit more pace and energy in attack this week. I think the turnaround after being embarrassed by Salford at the weekend, there will be a little bit more energy. Burgess will get more of a tune out of him in terms of just fight in possession, but even when Williams has tried to put the team on his back and really do a lot of work, it's not opening teams up. It's dull, it's stale, it's predictable. I know where the ball's going, and if I know where the ball's going, they know where the ball's going. It's so easy to predict. It's so basic. Something needs to change with that attack. Unfortunately, at this point now, Warrington mathematically can't make playoffs, so who knows if the coaches even give a shit about trying to do anything different in this one. They probably don't. I think this will be a game where it results in Warrington focusing on 1v1s towards the edges. That's it. So we move the ball out wide because through the middle we can't compete, but it's going to end up being 1v1s. So what does that mean for Warrington? Well, on one side, if Duffy gets another go in the centres again, it's going to be his second start. His second start. So there's no expectations for him, and he's against Tessie Niu. What do you want him to do? What do you expect him to do? And on the other side, it's King versus Hanley. Hanley being one of the best defensive centres in the competition. I'd be surprised if King gets one line break past Umila Hanley. I would be surprised if he gets one. They might shut everything down. So this could be really tricky for Warrington. Tessie Niu, plus whatever group of forwards Leigh will have this week, I think honestly will be fine through the middle. They'll have enough. Lamb down the short sides as well. Warrington the last few weeks, down the short sides. Catalans exploited it. Salford exploited it. Leigh can absolutely exploit it. Just finding numbers down the short sides, and Lamb will just manipulate whoever's there in defence. He will get Leigh through that defensive line quite easily on a number of occasions, I think. Will Hayes starting the spine for Warrington again this week? How many kids will Warrington use? The hope is that there's still just a few. Duffy could maybe have another go. I'd like to see McKinney again. I would like to see him again because he looks like quite a big lad. But I hope that we don't use too many, because the point was for this week, we don't want to disrupt the reserves that are currently undefeated in the Reserve League. So let them have their success, but give some guys a go. Same guys again, I'm fine with that one. So I think Warrington's squad might look quite strong on paper again, but I can see Warrington turning up. I can see a decent amount of energy. I can see them trying to produce some creative, some positive moments in front of the home crowd to make up for last week. But it's just a case of Leigh outplaying Warrington. Warrington will turn up because it's a big game. It's just so typical. We haven't turned up for the smaller games, but this is one. Now that we're out of a playoff contention spot, we'll just turn up for this. But Leigh will outplay Warrington, in my opinion, for the full game. So for prediction, I'm going to go with Warrington Wolves 12, Leigh Leopards 22. Finally for this round, we have the other potential game of the round in Hull Kingston Rovers taking on Hull FC. Starting with form, Hull KR have won 4 in their last 5 games. Hull FC have won 2 in their last 5 games. Hull KR could win the League Leaders Shield in this game. They need to win this one, plus they need Saints to beat Wigan. That's what they need to get it wrapped up at home against the local rivals. Now, I do expect Hull KR to enjoy the better field position, just based on the options available now in the forwards and who they can rotate on as well, the kind of impact subs that they've got available. I think through the middle, they've still been performing up to standard. The only one where they didn't look that competitive through the middle was against Leeds a few weeks back. But Hull FC, with their options up front, they've taken a step back in the last few weeks and months at this point with their forwards. And, missing out on Knight is difficult for them. Asiata as well, and then SASA on top of that. It's going to be tricky up front. KR are also more settled in the backs as well. FC still having to adjust. Hardacre has done some good stuff at fullback. I think he's been performing at a much higher level these past few weeks and months in Price and Asiata's absence. I think he's taken on more responsibility, playing in kind of a half-back role or at fullback. I think Hardacre's stepped up massively, but without Price and Asiata, it is difficult to break open a strong defence like KR's. Caesar and Cust, I think they'll be huge in terms of the kicking game and the run game. If Caesar can control the kicking game well enough, if he can kick the ball far enough, find the spaces between the receivers, they could maybe try and pin KR back. They do find it quite easy to move the ball up the field anyway, but that's their best bet. The kicking from Caesar is going to be huge. Can Cust, who I imagine will be on the right edge, can he get one over on Mikey Lewis? Can he beat him with his run game and break that line? Possibly. Possibly, but we'll have to see. Now, because it is a derby, FC need to win as well to, stay in with a chance of playoffs. Maybe the added pressure of potentially getting the League Leaders Shield is too much for KR. Does that bring the game closer? All the factors in this. A derby, FC need to win. KR want to win for League Leaders Shield. Is it too much pressure for FC? Is it too much for KR? Is it just a lot of pressure for both that they kind of shrink a little bit and just kind of go back and forth? If that's the case, again, it suits KR. If they want to be a little bit expansive, I still think it suits KR a bit more because they're more reliable shifting the ball around. but maybe it's a little bit better for FC if the game opens up, and with the kind of atmosphere that they're going to be in, are they like ready for that energy? Are they ready to bring that? And if FC were anything like they were against Leigh a few weeks back, may FC have a real chance in this one. That's what they've got to be like. They've got to have that kind of, that power through the middle and that kind of movement towards the edges that they had against Leigh. If they can replicate that, great. But I just think through the middle suits KR, out wide suits KR. Kicking game, they'll have less to worry about in terms of placement. It'll just be Mikey Lewis chipping towards the back left corner. Kicking game, in that case, suits KR. I think pinning FC back will be a lot easier for them as well. And defensively, FC are they're an okay side. They're not amazing. It wasn't great against Leeds. They can have their moments. Maybe they'll find some points. I think it'll be a case of later on in the game, they might find some points. Maybe there's, KR take the foot off the gas a little bit. But I think Hull KR should be okay in this one. And based on my other predictions, don't think they'll get the League Leader Shield wrapped up this week, but I think they'll get the win. So I'm going to go with Hull Kingston Rovers 28, Hull FC 12. So there you have my Super League round 25 predictions. As always, if you guys have your own, do let me know in the comment section down below. But if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.